Welcome back to the Clear Shot Podcast. Today we've invited another one of our podcast clients into the studio to talk about their experience of podcasting and how it's helped their business grow. Raymond Wood is an elite football coach with over 25 years of experience working with the Premier League and other European teams. He's founded Eurofootball Star to help young players find their own pathway to a career in professional football. Ray's podcast has turned into a content generating machine, so we thought we'd have him on to talk about it. Thanks very much for being on my show, Ray. Welcome to the Clear Shot Podcast. How have you found the process of, you're quite a few episodes in now. How are you finding the recording process now?
Yeah, I love it. We went down that quandary trying to do it all ourselves initially and looking at all the different equipment you've got to buy and getting the room set up. And I thought, no, we need to just have it done for us. We don't have the time nor the effort. And I think when I looked at it from a financial point of view, it was definitely better actually going down the route of getting you guys Clear Shot to do it all from us from start to end.
What I'd like to do first is just sort of talk about, could you give us a brief summary of your business and also a summary of your audience as well?
Yeah, we're sort of like a white space area of football or soccer as we call it in Australia. So you've got clubs and coaches, you've got the elite at the top and agents, and then we see that space in the middle where there's a lot of work that needs to be done for the 99% of mums and dads whose players or sons and daughters maybe might want to make it as a professional and don't have the actual outline or the pathway. And then what we do is we open up that pathway through my 25 years experience working in the pro game back in Europe.
And so who are the people that are listening to the podcast? Is it those mums and dads? Is it the kids? Is it both?
I think it's a mixture. I think we cut up a lot of reels from the podcast, which you help us with as well. I think they target our younger audience and the players through TikTok and Instagram. The podcast, so to speak, tends to be a lot of friends and family members in the UK, love it. And then obviously a lot of the parents as well. And we're starting to generate a lot of comments on them now, and there's a lot of questions getting fired at us from the parents, which has been really good.
So I suppose, are you putting together a back catalogue, a set of resources? How do you see your collection of episodes?
Yeah, we look at it. I think one of the big things I've learned over the past couple of years, I've spoken to you about being part of an entrepreneurial group, and it's actually casting your net far and wide rather than just thinking everything's got to be specifically to football or to soccer. So we have had people on who aren't even working in the game of soccer or football, and we found by casting our net further and wider and being able to do that through your production and editing of the podcast is opening it up to everyone because, as an example, we had Chelsea Jean on, who's a nutrition expert, but she's got a lot of friends who've got kids who probably play football and soccer. So that's what we've learned, is casting that net far and wide and don't just be really narrow focused, but be wider with it.
Help me understand a little bit about that, your overall content strategy. So we talk about the podcast. We also generate a bunch of reels. What's the point of doing that?
It's to basically drive in leads and customers for us. But also one of the biggest problems that we've got is we know we've got the only niche product in the planet, but not enough people know we exist and the product even exists. So through the value adds and giving away stuff for free, like the podcast, like the reels, like Pitch Side, all these different products we're putting out for free. Hopefully people will see it, like it, and they'll go, actually, these guys know what they're talking about, and then actually discover our program. So that's the whole process behind it. It's about giving us away as much free stuff as possible so people build that connection with us and actually feel like they know us and we're a trusted source in the game of football. And then hopefully then further down the line they become a customer. And if they don't, that's fine as well.
So one of the things that we do for you, that we do for a lot of our clients, is these short reels that we create. And the ones we do for you are fantastic, and thanks for investing in that. But we put a lot more effort into the production of it, and choosing the right content from your podcast is a really important part of that. I think the fact that we spend so much time with your product now, with your content, gives us a really excellent insight into the right type of content that we should be posting in those short reels. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of letting AI choose and post everything, which is great to put a bunch of content out there, but I think it's really important that people know that we select specific stuff so that the right messaging's getting out there.
We did have a software that we were using with our videographer, Carl, and it was drawing out certain clippets. The clippets, I'll be honest, were wrong. It wasn't the right bit of information. One of the things that we've learned, and this is what we've worked on with you because you were on board with it, one of the big things is we deal and work in objections and trying to pull out those objections from the parents. So what is it the players really want to hear? What examples? So what we found is by pulling out the right objections, it's getting the right message across, and the mums and dads are then aware of what we actually offer. So like one of the objections could be, as an example that we've recently pulled out, was that this myth around only players who've got British or European passports can go to the UK. We actually dispelled that myth because we can actually help them with an education visa, which then allows them to play and train football in Europe or the UK.
Yeah, which is something you talk about all the time, but it's a part of a 40-minute conversation. It's one part
and
of that.
And it's lost in the middle of that 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Where if we can draw that reel out, like those reels are so powerful because they're very graphical, they've got captions on, and that was another thing that we've learned through you guys as well. I think it was about 6 months ago when you spoke to us about the importance of captions, and then I started researching it because I always like to challenge everything, and you were spot on. Because what we discovered was your pickup rate of a post on, say, Facebook or Instagram, it's 80% more likely to be watched and viewed if there's captions, because unfortunately people are in work scrolling when they shouldn't, or they're in bed next to the husband or the wife when they're snoring asleep and they're trying to go through quietly. Captions helps them read them. So it was that insight you gave us was invaluable, because our message can get out there, and it's scary to think when we weren't putting captions on our reels, we were losing maybe thousands of people.
Thousands of views. Yeah, and one of the other things we did with you was it was a really quick and easy bit of data capture. We did the higher end reels, posted those as a test, and I think they got 40% more views than the just people talking views. And, you know, ClearShot, we do just the regular ones. It usually, fortunately, you've got fantastic video content to go on top of it, and that is a problem for some clients that we have. But if you can up the quality of your stuff, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and for me, especially out there, and I'm not saying any particular industry is boring, but not everything's exciting as football or soccer. Yep. But for me, that's where I think your reels are so important, because graphically they look better. You've got images dropping in. You've got your captions coming past in colour. I think if you've got a so-called mundane industry, that's a really good way of getting your listeners across.
So what's your general aim for the feel of your content? What are you trying to get people to feel when they look at all of your stuff?
I think the brand's important for people to see that with the authority in the game. Because, again, it's like with me, not many people know who I am, but I'm actually the highest qualified football coach in Australia. And it's like, and people aren't aware of that, and they don't even know I exist. And for many reasons, I don't work in the football system in Australia. But once we're able to get that out through the brand and we look like the authority, and then when people come and test our free stuff we're giving them, and like the weekend that we've just experienced in Brisbane last weekend was phenomenal, it's a bit of an easy one. And when we say, look, we've actually got this product, we can help you. We've got a solution for your problem. And a lot of the time, the parents don't realise they've got a problem. They think they can just put up with the federation and they go along like everyone else should do. Once they realise they're only drinking Pepsi, but there's actually Coke available, which might be better, then that's the way we're going.
I suppose the other thing that's a bit complicated about your product is that it involves kids as well, right? How do you deal with that?
It's tricky because obviously you've got a lot of the age things as well, so we've got to be really careful.
But that's how you have to do it. Like this is the time when kids are going to be able to go there, so you need to target them.
Yeah, we do target them. Obviously, like through Facebook and Instagram, there's different rules and ages you can attack. Yeah. So when we advertise, especially, we can't advertise to the younger audiences on Facebook, which is fine. But we just make sure, you know, they're aware that mums and dads need to be with them. We don't let them in the room with us without a parent. They're not allowed to come and register on the pitch and be training with us or coaching with us unless, again, they've got a parent. Anyone who's 18 and older, that's a different story. But it's always a tricky one. But I think we know most 13, 14-year-olds are on TikTok and Instagram and they're on social media. If they see the ad, then they tell mum and dad, because the rules stipulate they've got to have a guardian to sign them up.
And what about from a brand perspective, though? When you're talking about the conversations you're having, the information you're putting out there, is it all player-focused? Is it all parent-focused? Do you try to go somewhere in between?
We try and do a little bit of both. So obviously with yourself, when we've done the events, we're getting testimonials from both parents and adults. But again, what we're finding is rather than having them long 10-minute testimonials, that 1 minute quick snippet testimonial with the graphics, with the captions, it's so powerful. And you tend to find that, obviously the kids get drawn to the kids, and the other parents out there want to see the testimonials from the other parents. The problem we've had in the past, we haven't been able to, one, say that we are an authority in the game, and two, anyone to show any substance that we've done it in the past. So now through the testimonials that we've got rolling continuously on our socials, it's great because people can see them on a daily basis.
So the other one I wanted to ask about was, what problems do you face in the business that having the podcast solves for you?
I think one of the big ones is we get a lot of like questions fired at us, and we're doing this already. We use the podcast as a reference. So we're like, look, we can answer that for you, but also watch this particular episode. We actually cover it in this. And it's quite easy because like, even like the way you've educated us on our podcast, like having the particular line in the subtitle on the podcast. So it basically tells you what the whole podcast is about. Like, are you aware of the professional player pathway? Are you struggling with your current club setup? Are you not getting opportunities to play at the top level? So it's quite clever in that subject line that we're putting in the podcast. It's easy to reference and refer it to parents and to players.
So are you saying that in your business you answer the same 20 questions quite often, and you're able to use these as a resource to give to people?
Yeah.
And what about from a content perspective? How has podcast filled that gap for you?
I think it's the big one's education. So one of the big things is that we've discovered is that they want more of our time. They want more free stuff, and they want to be educated along the way. Once we feel like we're educating them, we've found through the podcast and also pitch side episodes, we're really educating the mums and dads. And then once they actually like that content and we're teaching them, then it's a no-brainer. And it was last weekend, it was the first time I probably had 20 plus parents come up to me going, we follow you on your socials, we watch your podcast, we love it. You really resonate with us on what our problems are. So it's really, really pleasing to know that we're finally hitting that nail on the head.
Yeah, lovely. And what about from I suppose you might be a bit of an outlier in this, because one of the problems we solve for people is that we can have these conversations and it equals a bunch of content. So if you want to post 3 times a week, you've got 3 posts there from the podcast, but that's not as big a problem for you because you're quite happy to put yourself in front of the camera as much as you can.
Yeah, I think I wasn't a few years ago. I've always been a confident speaker, but obviously once I understood how I could help the business and how I could help people be aware of our message through hooks, through objections, but it must be hard for others. But I think something as powerful as having a podcast, you could cut that up easily into 10 or 12 reels. So it's giving you content that you can constantly put out, and it's there for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So that that podcast, that one episode could be cut up into 50 reels essentially. It's never ending.
And what's your advice to people who have a business but haven't quite put themselves out there to be the face of it yet? How did that change your world?
I think there's 2 things on this. I seen a really good one a couple of years ago, and it was all about fear. And I think the statement went along the lines of everything you dream of in life, whether it be in business or personally, is the other side of fear. And I'll be honest, I used to be one of these people. I was too scared to spend 20 bucks a day on Facebook because I used to tell myself it doesn't work. But really, I was only ever doing the Facebook ads, and I don't really know how to do Facebook ads. And it comes down to content and doing podcasts. I originally looked at it and I was like, oh, it's a bit pricey, And I'm like, that's a lot of money if we've got to do a couple of 100 episodes a year. But once I removed that fear and I just went for it and didn't worry about the financial side of it too much, when I stopped worrying about the finances and I just committed to it, in turn, the business has gone from 0 to 100, like literally over the couple of weeks. And that's like probably the back end of last year. And now it's like we could not go without the content now. We could not go without the podcast because it's part of our branding and it's making us in the world an authority in the game. And mums and dads love our content, so we know it's getting out there. And that's a big thing that's important to us.
What's your plans around the people that you invite, and what are their reactions to you asking them to be on the show?
In the past, like we used to, you always think with a podcast that you need the most famous person on every week. Realistically, that's not possible. And even for some of the bigger ones, Joe Rogans, your Rich Rolls, they don't necessarily have the big superstars on every week. one of the big things I've discovered, and I think this will help other businesses as well, to show them why it's important to do things like a podcast, is reaching out. Like, we're starting to reach out to our players. So our players have been on the programme for a year or two. As a reward system, we get the son and the mum or the daughter and the dad on the podcast with us for 30 minutes, for the simple reason being, your best customer is your current customer, and that current customer is going to go and spread the word. Now, you can imagine if you've got a young soccer player and his dad on, and we do a podcast episode for half an hour, they're going to share that to every single one in their socials. And it's the same premise in business. I think businesses need to think along these lines, inviting their top 100 customers on their podcast. Why do you use Joey's the plumbers? Why do you use Tony's gas fitters? And I think people have got too caught up with the whole 5-star A-list celebrities. It's good to get 1 or 2 of them a year. But for me, I think you need to start really focusing on your customers and bring some of them onto your podcast. And that's what we're starting to do as well over the next 6 to 12 months.
And what about the other people you've had on the show? Have they taken convincing? Are they happy to give you the information that they have?
They love it. And what I've done is, I'm always quite savvy, and I'm not very direct with it, but I just say, look, I always talk about what's in the interest of them rather than me. So I'm always leading why it would help them. Like, so as an example, we had Bonnie Hancock on a few months ago. We've kept in touch. Bonnie's amazing. And it was all about how we could help her grow her audience, how we could help spread a message of a book, how we could help share her successes when she circumnavigated Australia in her paddle. And I think if you lead that way as well, and you're always showing, it's about the other person or the other group, and it's a win-win. I think the positive energy, everyone wins from it, and it's a good way.
Beautiful. What are your plans for the podcast moving forward? Like, I know you've told me a few things, but where do you want to go with it? How many do you want to do?
I think for me, a minimum target we're setting ourselves is 100 a year. So roughly about 2 a week on average. Mm-hmm. And I think we're on track to do that potentially, which is good. And I think if we set that target, obviously we can't always get in the studio because we're in Brisbane, but the ones online, like through our software that we use, whether it be Zoom or your software, I think it still works as well. And I think it's nice as well, like especially when we go on site, like if we're going to Europe for games and we do some from over there as well. But plans are to keep pushing ahead. One of the big things I've learned as well, which a lot of people aren't aware of, and I'll share it because it's so important for anyone watching your stuff, is that it's about, I think it was 72% of people do less than 10 episodes of podcasts and give up. And it's like with everything in life, that the earlier you give up, the earlier you're going to fail. And you've just got to grit these things out and see these things out. And then I think it's like there's only 4% of people who've got podcasts who've got more than 100 episodes.
There's 4% that have more than 29.
29.
So welcome to the club, Ray.
So it's like, if you want to get ahead and you want to be up there and, be kicking on with algorithms or whatever it is to get your content, just do more than 29 episodes.
Well, that's like an announcement. You hit 30 this week.
Yeah.
So welcome to the 4%. Yeah.
And then it's scary to think, I think once you get over 100, I bet you it's like 1 or 2%.
Yeah, it'll be very few.
So my plan is to get to thousands of episodes. And the big thing we're finding is like even our first or second episodes we've done, we're getting comments on them still now. And I think like someone mentioned to me, that's like planting seeds. You just drop them seeds, they're growing, and they're there forever, like once they're out there.
You mentioned that you do some of your podcasts online and you do some in the room. How do you find the conversations differ?
I like both of them, but I'll be honest, I do prefer the face-to-face. Like, I just find you get better interaction. But I think to be able to do them calls across the internet, when I think like I was growing up when phones were just coming out and things like that, it's amazing that we can do that. And it means it opens it up for us that we can speak to someone on the other side of the world and we don't have to necessarily drag them into the studio. So I think it's a bit of a game changer. I think there's benefits.
And what about the preparation you give people? Do you give them a list of questions? Do you say, what do you say?
I used to, and I've realised that was the wrong way to go. I used to script everything. It was very robotic. It was very AI-like, if you like it. But I just generally go out with 2 or 3 key points. So, like, I think back to probably one of the most recent ones, and it was about when we had Charlotte and her dad in the room, and it was about just drawing out her experiences, how she found it, and did it benefit her to getting to achieve her goals. And they were the 3 points in my head. And it was very, very formal, and it was just rolling with the questions. And I found being that way and just flowing with it a little bit and seeing which way the conversation goes is actually a better way to do it. And it feels more natural as well.
So the last one I've got on my list, Ray, is I just wanted to talk to you about thumbnails.
Yeah.
So we went through a bit of a process with your podcast where we got started.
Yeah.
And we've slowly been trying to chip up the quality. We've been slowly chipping up the posts that we've been doing. And one of the big step changes we made was our thumbnail. Do you remember going through this process? How have you found the differences and what do you think of it now?
Yeah, it come from a guy called Martin Golden, someone I follow on YouTube, and I looked at his content and he's got like just under 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And even though like a podcast is predominantly on like Spotify or Apple, but I think it's people, I do as well, I prefer actually watching a lot of the podcasts now, even if it is just two people sat in the room. The thumbnails have been a game changer because it helped us be brand aware and show off our brands. But also I think it grabs people more because like one of the things I've learned through the psychology of business is if you don't grab someone within the first 3 seconds, you've lost them. And the chances of anyone clicking and then watching for longer than 3 seconds is slim if you don't get them. For me, I cannot afford not to have thumbnails. I cannot afford to have a proper subject line, and I cannot afford to have reels anymore because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have probably 2/3 of our customer base that we're getting. And so it's an absolute no-brainer. I just say to anyone who's considering and ahhing if they're sitting on the fence, I was on that fence for about 10 years, and I wish I would have jumped off that fence earlier.
Yeah, the process is remarkably easy with you, right?
Yeah.
Like we sit down, record, you get a video file sent, you get a thumbnail sent, you get a description sent, then approvals, and then
it's
go.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think, like, I knew we were in the 20s, but I didn't think we'd hit the 30 mark yet. And it goes to show, and I think back 6 to 8 months ago when I was on the fence, we didn't even have one episode recorded, and now we're already 30 in. So by the end of the year, I'm hoping, we'll be 60, 70, and we'll be knocking on the door of getting to the 100 early next year.
That's really lovely to hear, Ray. Thank you very much for your time, mate. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers, Nick.
Cheers, bud.